Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
We're out in the greenhouse and I think we're pretty happy this morning.
I honestly have not seen any frost damage in here at all. So let's talk about what we did.
Well, we have a large 30,000 BTU heater that unfortunately the piezo igniter on it stopped working. I verified that it does work by starting it up with a butane match, but I can't put the front on to make it safe. So instead we used Big Buddy heater.
We have two camp heaters that use the bottles.
1-pound cylinders of propane.
And we have those for events that we do that are too cold. We decided, since this thing was not working, that we would resort to it. So one of our friends calls his place Redundancy Ranch. And I think that's kind of the name of the game when you do the kind of things we do. Henry's going to change the hydroponic nutrient solution today because I think it's worth keeping.
We have a ton of these cherry tomatoes. These are the Gardener's Delight. They're a great tomato. Unfortunately, they were just really starting to ripen up right before this freeze hit.
Right, well I collected a ton, and I collected all of the Big Beef and the Granadero that were completely ripe yesterday. And I'd actually planned to get it back out last night because I was debating whether I should even pull the ones that were starting to turn orange. It did not look like it was going to get quite as cold as it was forecast. That they kept changing their minds. We know from the thermometer in the north yard that it got to be 28 last night.
So it's about 23 degrees here.
We decided to leave the covers on the outside to help reduce the infrared loss last night, and it seems to have worked. I mean, this little heater does put out a heck of a lot of heat. So very happy with the success here. The one plant that we were really concerned about getting frozen to death was the cantaloupe. It seems just as crummy as it did before.
It's still just as alive.
It's still just as alive, but it's still just as not particularly healthy. Now the yard is a kind of a different story. We didn't do anything there to speak of. We harvested our winter squash yesterday. I'm gonna need a cutter. Cutter. Well, I'm gonna cut it off because when I pull it, it brings out sweet potatoes. And this is a large and sprawling beast. That this is our oldest one. This could have been. I think we figured out that September 1st would have been 110 days for this or something. So. We had planned to harvest earlier, but we were kind of swamped under the potatoes and didn't want to clog up the kitchen anymore. So we figured we'll just let this go for now. I also have irrigation that needs to come off of here, but I can't see the irrigation until I get the... And these things have put down roots all over the place here, so...
That. You dump it?
Yep. Nice. What I really do like about growing sweet potatoes is once they're set up and you have them on irrigation, the only thing I have to do is watch to make sure that they're not being consumed by something. So if they were to get some sort of bugs, then I'd have to spray or something. But other than that, it's set them and let them go. And that's a really valuable crop for someone who is overly busy to start with.
Well, it's really great if you're going to be going out of town and things like that.
Well, and not just that, but also so many of the crops that we grow have in the past been what I call high maintenance crops. They have to be picked every other day, or in some cases at certain times of the summer, every day. And while that's fine, we accept that as part of the deal, it also means it really increases your workload. So if you could have something like a potato or a sweet potato where you just set it and forget it, except for making sure that it's getting enough water and that nothing's eating it. You know, and that's really awesome. We're actually working towards producing more plants like that. So you're not likely to see us producing a whole ton more, say, green beans or something, because we have plenty of those. But you're likely to see us producing something that either comes off all at once, like soy. So you pick once or twice, or once a week or something, rather than every other day. Carrots, which we normally harvest our carrots when we want a carrot. And that is awesome because I don't have to store them or anything else. And I only harvest a big pot of them if I have to. So if I know that I'm really going to lose them if I don't. Like we have a pot of carrots out here, and from here it looks just fine, to be honest. I've overwintered carrots here before. And the only problem with overwintering carrots is that sometimes the ground will be so frozen you can't harvest because it's a solid block of ice. But there we go. That's, how much would you guess is in there? £5?
I'd say we have at least 5 or 6 pounds.
Yeah, I like that giant one. There's a couple of really big ones there.
Yeah.
That's like 2 meals for us, at least. Okay, I'll hold on to the handles and you can pour it in.
Well, these will be easier because it's not for...
Well, it's also coming from the end, which makes a big difference. I can see the sweet potatoes in there. Woo! This is awesome. We've never grown anything. We've never grown sweet potatoes in containers this small before. Is there a number still on that one?
That is number 1.
Okay, cool. Oh, this is nice. We're getting a lot of what I would call perfect size in here.
I'm putting the soil back into the same bucket.
Yeah, might as well, because those will go back in and they'll be used for planting the brassicas when I pot up the next time. Because I'm going to keep some of the brassicas just completely in the greenhouse, and then the theory has been we're going to shift some of them out to one of the beds over here. We'll see how that goes.
Well, at least we're not having the deer show up this year. It looks like the fences are working well.
Yeah, they're showing up, but they're looking sad on the outside so far. So,
and that's a good place for them to be.
I think that's a great place for them to be. There has been rain this year, and there's vegetation out there, so they're not starving to death. They could go eat the things they're supposed to eat. Farmers' fields. Not my garden, right? Well, there's sage and other things growing in the area here that I have never seen grow here before, or that we rarely get much quantity of.
Now you're talking about the sage outside the fence, the wild sage.
The wild sage, yeah. You know, like Riders of the Wild Sage sort of thing. You know, the purple sage sort of thing. Yeah, okay. I think actually one may have been the first small bucket. We'll have to see. I am thrilled with the carrots, though. They're looking great. I was a little concerned about if they'd be bothered, but they don't seem to have been bothered at all.
Pull the vines off.
Right.
Okay, you want to hold the...
Yep. This is number 2. I'm hoping I have the paper that this was put in on. Some of the stuff was recorded really well and some of it wasn't. But I can see the sweet potatoes in there. Let's check this out. Now there's a sight that'll warm your furry little heart.
Let's hold. Well, you want to pull those off?
Yeah. Well, there's another really nice one.
As far as I'm concerned, they're all nice.
Oh yeah, but you know, I mean, like I would pick it in the grocery store as my preferred form of the plant, you know. These are beautiful. I am really happy. Best idea I've had in a while to just keep planting the silly things into the pots. Just did this all summer, you know, as I would get, we have a couple of sweet potatoes that had started sprouting in the kitchen last year. And whenever they would start to overrun the greenhouse more, I would cut off the cuttings off of them and put them into a pot. And we talked about it and we're like, well, how long do we keep doing this? And we're like,
all summer.
All summer, forever. Not quite forever, but all summer. And it obviously worked. And the only thing that cost us was the original 2 sweet potatoes. All of these sweet potatoes, the slips for them, came from the same 2 sweet potatoes that we had left over from Thanksgiving last year or something.
I think that's right.
And they started to sprout, and we're like, oh, can we do this? The answer's like, apparently we can do this.
Yeah, now, we put those sweet potatoes in the ground in a slightly different way in terms of trying to start growing slips. We laid them down in sand, or was it in potting soil?
In potting soil. I went online and I read about, I'm like, well, how do they produce commercial slips? And the answer is they lay them flat down in sand usually, but we don't really have sand, and sand would be a problem here because it'd be hard to keep moist enough. So they lay them down in sand or dirt, and as the plants just start sending out slips, they break them off, and that's what they sell to you when you spend good money for sweet potato slips. We've done the thing in the kitchen before, and while it was kind of cheerful to have, you know, all this greenery in the kitchen in the middle of the winter, it was also kind of a pain. It got to be very invasive, and I find it harder to keep it, you know, you got to make sure, because when it gets really leggy, then all of a sudden the plant's using a lot of moisture quickly, and you could accidentally let the plant dry out more than you want to, all that sort of stuff. So I decided I didn't want to do that this year, that I would just try laying them down the way the pros do. And I'm like, okay. And it worked, obviously. So that will be our new technique from now on. You can still grow them. You can still grow sweet potato slips really easily in the kitchen in a container. And some people are going to really enjoy that. For us, it became kind of a pain in the patootie. So we decided that this was a better way to do it. Oh, let me move this over here. I was just dumping the rest of the dirt. There we go. This is number 3. Whoop, whoop. Let's see, red. These are garnet, as I recall.
That's right.
Which is our favorite sweet potato. Some people prefer the white yam, some people prefer the oranges, it's all different kinds, but we prefer garnet. Woo, that's a good start. Oh wow, look.
Nice.
And they do grow, they grow almost like a hand of bananas in terms of coming off the plant a lot of times. So it's very cool. This is definitely what I'd call a win-win. An experiment gone right. Yay! I like experiments gone right. And we could have harvested earlier. Like I said, we decided not to because we had just a little too much going on. And in order to be able to handle the sweet potatoes correctly, make sure that they... Can you imagine if this had another month?
No. Well, actually, I can, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to. But we decided that we would just leave them because we just didn't have room in the house right this second.
I need another toad, Irene.
I have another toad out here. I was being optimistic and I brought out 2. And figuring I have a third one in the house. If they really did well.
And they didn't do well.
No, they didn't do well. They did awesome. Wow. And what's interesting is like some of these plants were damaged. We had the deer got in early in the season.
That was before I put it
Before Henry put up the electric fence. Yeah. And that was one of the things that convinced us we really had to get the electric fence up because they came up here and they munched the tops out of the sweet potatoes. And that was almost the only thing they damaged, as I recall. Well, because it was early enough in the season.
They had good taste.
Yeah, right. It was early enough in the season that we didn't have things like bush beans and stuff growing at that point. We experimented last year, some of these small ones like this, I sliced up and stuck them in soup. Just like you would a carrot, you know? And they kind of disappear into the soup, but it's part of the nutrition and stuff, so that's pretty cool. This tells us as if we did do late ones, we could possibly keep the frost of these guys off, you know, for another month or something like that, depending on how the fall goes, obviously. And that would give us more, just in case we were really feeling like we needed sweet potatoes. Well, I would say this was a serious success this year. This was all done rather casually. We had done a couple of buckets last year and got a pretty decent collection.
Yeah, we did 4 of our rectangular boxes, if I recall. They were the same as that original blue one.
We decided this year we would definitely do it again. And so we did the blue one first, so I was waiting for the other pots to come in the mail. And then when they came, I started just making more slips into each pot. And each pot had between 2 and 4 slips in it, depending on the pot. And that's a heck of a lot of potatoes. Sweet potatoes, we'll actually weigh them inside. But I am very happy, very happy.
We'll have a little bit of eating to do.
Uh-huh. I think we have potatoes to eat too.
Do you know what time it is?
Yeah, it's time to tell people that they need to like and subscribe because obviously we're doing all kinds of stuff. And we don't have a problem with saying it was a success or it was a failure. You know, we tried this and I would definitely do it again. Definitely do it again. And what I would probably do is the last ones that we had here, if we had the room in the greenhouse, like if we can have our stuff all cleaned up and stuff, movement to the greenhouse, because it would just another month on some of these, we would have been up to our armpits in sweet potatoes. We're
pretty far up anyway.
We're still pretty good. Yeah, there's only 2 of us, so yeah.
Time to say goodbye, Irene.
Yeah. So until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Keep brainstorming.
Obviously we did.